friends, and happy August. If you're wondering whether or not you missed my July video blog, I can promise you that you did not. I sent out my June video blog very late in the month, so I was going to wait and do my July video blog in the middle of the month of July, and then something happened. It's called summer. Have you ever noticed that the 12 weeks between Memorial Day and Labor Day disappear in the blink of an eye? Between summer fun, lots of cycling, going to Norway, a week at Shirley Ryan for my annual research contribution, my nephew's wedding, and the Conewile golf outing, I literally didn't have a minute to spare. I was feeling a little bit of shame around the fact that I didn't get a new vlog out in July, but then I was talking with my coach, and he reminded me that I get to call the shots. Any sense of false obligation I was creating in my mind was totally my own. When I let go of that and decided that I would send my next piece out in early-ish August, I instantly felt better. Now, speaking about Conewile, once again, it was an amazing event. For those of you who are less familiar, the annual Conewile MS Golf outing has been going on for 47 years. When I first got involved around 2000, we were already raising somewhere around $500,000, if I remember that correctly. But if I had to guess, in those first few years back in the early 1980s, even getting to six figures was probably a big dream. This year, we are around the $2 million mark, which back then would have been unthinkable. I have to say I really enjoy volunteering at the Conewile event. During the day, my role is to work one of the Beat the Pro holes. Basically, what I do is I try to get each person in the foursome to place a bet that they get their ball closer to the hole than the pro. The suggested wager is somewhere between $10 and $50, but my initial ask is for $100 per player. Let's just say I can be very convincing. At first, some people are a little bit hesitant, but then I pull out my magic line after telling my entire story. By the way, have I mentioned I've lived with MS for 44 years? Now, mind you, I've mentioned this many times over. I'm sure you figured that out. And more often than not, they make a pretty good size wager. I think my hole probably raises more money than any of the other in-game wagering holes on the course. And I have to say I'm really proud of that. Another thing that's been really exciting for me this summer is that I've been reading through the first draft of my manuscript for the collection of stories that will become my book about living with multiple sclerosis. You may have noticed that I've been loosely referencing this upcoming book on and off through these video blogs for the last year or so. We have finally reached a point where we have a collection of about 35 vignettes and short stories to piece together into a collection that tells some of the tales of my life over the last 44 years living with MS, with a few inclusions from my earlier childhood, just for fun. When we first started discussing putting together a collection of stories, I had this vision that I would be sitting in a coffee shop reading through the stories one at a time, sipping on an almond milk vanilla latte. Because my summer has been so full, though, I was a little bit unsure as to whether or not I was going to be able to actualize this vision. But last week, for the first time, I got to sit down and start to savor the stories that my co-author, Jim, has been crafting from my words. And I have to tell you, the experience was every bit as good as I dreamed it might be. I giggled. I cried. I laughed out loud at certain points. I think that other people in the coffee shop, they must have thought I was a little bit off my rocker. Now, as some of you, or as most of you know, one of the ways my MS manifests itself the most is in cognitive issues. There are so many things that I don't remember about my own life. So to be able to sit down and read the stories of my life that Jim helped me capture and recreate was an extraordinary, powerful moment for me. In fact, it continues to be powerful because I still have about half of the first draft to read. And I expect by the time I sit down to record this video blog, I will have had a chance to do that. Much like the Conwell golf outing probably never dreamed that they would be able to raise $2 million when they first got started, never in a million years did I dream that I'd be able to pull together a 200-ish page collection of my stories when I first set out on the path of sharing my stories over a decade ago. What started with one little Toastmaster icebreaker speech eventually turned into me getting my 10-speech competent communicator pin. After that, I eventually found my way to businesses and charity events where I was giving speeches and sharing my stories in places beyond the Toastmaster stage. Along the way, we started turning some of my stories into video blogs like this, and then eventually the idea of putting some sort of anthology together. You know, just like all things in life, you just have to start somewhere and stay the course. That's what it's been like living with MS for 44 years now. If things go the way I hope they do, somewhat time before the end of the year or before the end of my 60th year, which is coming right up, well, at least the start of it is coming right up, you'll be able to know a little bit more about what that ride over the last 44 years has been like, one story at a time. Well, that's all for this time, my friends. Stay tuned. The best is yet to come. Ciao, ciao for now.